Hi, I'm Tim, and welcome to Watch Us Tonight on Watchbox Studios. I'm back in blue for the evening. I missed you guys. Did you miss me? Let's see who's filtering in. Eric Nielsen, Russell996, PY7, Matt Foster, Edward Ledden of Sweden, Sutat, Evil Z, Jan Wilhelm Koster, Alexi from Finland, Fjord Prefect, hi Tim, Steven Fernandez, Roberto, welcome guys. I missed you folks. What have we got on the agenda for tonight? Well, we talk Doomsday for Mechanical Watches, part, 20. Paying the right price for a watch, any buyer. Sports watch status of the traditional Royal Oak Jumbo. We're going to tackle that debate. Watches you can't wear daily and what constitutes one. Also, the best watches that nobody buys, part 2. All of this and viewer wrist shots on watches tonight. Guys, I want to emphasize there is no better place to buy, sell, or trade watches. You know I do. Than thewatchbox.com. It's where I work. They pay for these pixels. You can see my videos, world-class studio photography, full accessories, and get the details on everything in our inventory. Now over 2,000 watches live. And we have a new giveaway watch for October. The watch I will be giving to you, a $1,600 value, will be the Seiko Astron GPS Solar, a hardcore daily driver. This one will precede the November watch, which by popular demand, your request, will be the Tudor Heritage Black Bay Black Rose, the rarest modern production Tudor. So that's what's coming up and on deck in our watch giveaway. By the way, guys, we will have links in the description fields below these videos so you can enter. Okay, batting practice, warming up with your pitches and my cuts. Reginald T asks, Tim, with smart watches, atomic radio clocks, Seiko Astron GPS, and connected phones, I fear that there's no future for our hobby. I'm afraid that when I have kids, they won't want to inherit my collection. I'm 31 and I'm wondering if ours is the last generation to care about this sort of thing. Okay guys, big breath, and I mean big breath, because not for the first time and probably not for the last, I gotta remind you that it's been almost 50 years since another Seiko, the Astron 35 SQ, left a trail of Swiss destruction in its wake. Keep in mind that in 1978, we'd have had a serious discussion on our hands discussing the future prospects for mechanical watches. But in 2018, it's abundantly clear that the luxury mechanical watch market is here to stay as a permanent, if notably cyclical, niche among discretionary expense industries, which is to say, it's here to stay. It's going to wax and wane, but it ain't going nowhere. Now, let's summarize. People lamented in 1978, 1988, 1998, and 2008 about whether mechanical watches had a future. If you're 31, Reginald, I have to remind you that because you are 31 and enthused about mechanical luxury watches, you are living proof that most of those older furrowed brows in 78, 88, 98, and 08 were wasted, anxious energy. Furthermore, let's count all of the doomsday devices since the 70s that were supposed to mark the death knell of the mechanical watch. Quartz watches in the 1970s. Personal organizers, remember those in the 1980s? Cell phones, flip phones, Apple Newton pads, and Palm Pilots in the 1990s. During the 2000s, Blackberries, Zunes, and the God phone, the iPhone 1. And then, of course, smart watches and smartphones of all descriptions in the 2010s. So nobody wears a Daytona to tell time. For that matter, nobody wears a Daytona to race cars either. In the era of Formula One and digital cameras, and this is the underlying logic of why we buy mechanical watches today, even at great expense, we can still breed thoroughbreds in Kentucky for Churchill Downs, and we still commission portraits of our family. Why? For the same reason we buy mechanical watches, love of tradition and the raw emotion it brings to us. So fear not, Reginald, the mechanical watch has a bright future ahead. Now, Harry E. asks, Tim, how much should I pay for any given watch? Do you have guidelines? Well, yes, I do, but I'm going to provide you the assist. You're going to have to sink the shot with a final judgment call. First, there are 3 levels to this decision. There's what you're able to pay, your actual means, what you're willing to pay, your threshold of emotional pain, and then there's the right market price for a watch, which is probably the most objective consideration of the 3. So let's start with what you're able to pay. This is the discretionary cash, and I can't overemphasize that, cash that you have. Never finance fun. That's my only hard and fast rule about this hobby. Never finance fun, pay cash. I saw something that made my skin crawl the other day on the Swatch brand page. Not the Swatch group page, but the actual Swatch fashion watch brand page. So I was interested in a Swatch that was portrayed. Seems cool, alien face, cheap enough, price is right. But look closer. Look even closer. Okay, that's the end of the civilized world when we have Affirmed offering financing in 3 installments on a $65 Swatch. That's the end of everything. And please, 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 big picture, don't be the luxury goods version of that guy. Bill Murray speaks the truth, or maims the truth, whichever you prefer. So now we move on to what you're willing to pay. Okay, this is what you're willing to part with of your discretionary cash. Once you've decided you have the money to buy a luxury watch, weigh means against motivation and decide what you're comfortable spending. Oftentimes, the worst match between watch and collector are made when a collector spends more money than he's comfortable spending and can't be satisfied with the end result, or he has the money but he cheaps out and he buys a watch with an incomplete set, bad condition, no papers, or subpar running order. Don't decide that you're okay spending $7,000 and you've got the cash for a sound watch and then buy a sketchy watch for $6,500 from a sketchy dealer overseas. This is one of those situations where, yes, you can pay too little for a watch, and it happens all the time. A little bit more money for a better seller and a better watch is worth the premium. Now, finally, there's the question of the market for any particular watch. This is the most granular consideration because it forces you to do a little bit of research as opposed to soul searching and checkbook checks. So, some new watches, and you got to be familiar with the market for any given watch that you want, such as Lange and Piaget, can be obtained even new at a boutique or a dealer at a discount. And you need to know this ahead of time before you wind up writing a check for MSRP. You don't want to pay list if you can get a discount, especially new with a warranty. Now, that said, and this is the realm of Rolex and Steel, AP, and Patek Philippe, many watches sell pre-owned at above their new list price. Now, if you want instant gratification and you've got the money to spend, you might want to pay twice the retail price for a steel ceramic Daytona. That said, I would advise against. This is a time when it might actually be to your advantage to be patient. Instead of spending $28,000 on that Daytona, spend a little bit of money to buy something nice to hold you over, maybe $5,000 on a good pre-owned El Primero, and then get on the dealer wait list to get the new Daytona. You'll wind up saving money and feeling better once it's all over. But know what watches trade above list pre-owned so you don't feel like you're being hounded or harried by a seller who asks for more. So finally, there's the question of what resources to consult. How do you actually know what to pay? Well, one of the best resources is eBay completed listings. When you go on the bay and you start fishing, there is the completed listings option. If you look on the sidebar, select completed listings and you'll see what the actual agreed transaction prices were. This is much better than just looking at asks on eBay and Chrono. Also, you want to check out the Watchbox app, which is actually our proprietary record of all 40,000 plus watches we've sold, so you can actually see what the watches have sold for over the years and track the value of one or more watch even if you don't own it in real time. It's also important to note that Chrono 24 has an app just like it. They don't have quite the same depth of data and they don't have the media viewer that lets you see me, but at the same time I recommend you get both apps. Finally, join and participate in a brand forum with a sales page and track this over time. Some fora actually prohibit you from discussing price, but they always have a sales page where you can see what people are asking. An ask is not a sell. It's not the transaction price, but it will be a guide and a good relative one. Okay, guys, let's see who's joining in. Right here, I can see we have Horology Homies, Fjord Prefect. We can see Fjord Prefect saying no wait list for the GMT CHNR. I do think there is a wait list for that. There's a little bit of a wait list for a couple of gold Rolex sports watches. That's one of them, and the Oyster Flex Daytonas are the others. I can also see Kyle Rose saying, Tim, what is your next giveaway? It's going to be a Seiko Astron GPS Solar and then the Tudor Heritage Black Bay Black Rose, the rarest modern Tudor. I can also see we've got double dub plate joining in. Anthony B, Brick Lane, and Zach Blass. Welcome, guys. I can see Zach saying financing is the future, though. People already do so with their phones, as an example, during the iPhone upgrade program. Yes, but when you start playing with thousands of dollars in luxury watches, it's better to play safe. Spend cash. That's my enduring advice, if you take only one thing away from this 30 minutes. Now, Saul G asks, Tim, the AP Royal Oak Jumbo, is it really a sports watch? It's always called that, but the watch is delicate, lightly built compared to the 15400, never mind the Offshore, and the crown is a pushdown. Water resistance is minimal. And why call it a jumbo when it's 39 millimeters? That's almost a lady's watch today. Okay, Saul. The short answer is yes, it is a sports watch. We've grandfathered the Royal Oak 15202 ST into the sports watch category because of what it represented in the 70s when it originally debuted. Back then, the 1972 reference 5402 was huge. 39 millimeters was a jumbo back then. And the first ultra-thin Royal Oak automatic, the 14790, was actually a 37 millimeter watch. So even through the 80s, the 39 was the jumbo automatic Royal Oak. Also, going back to 72 in the 5402, all in steel, automatic winding, and loomed. It wasn't a dressed watch. The first Royal Oak checked all the boxes as an aggressive sports model by the standards of its day. It was as provocative in 1972 as the 1993 Royal Oak Offshore was in 93. So you've got to look at kind of the way back machine perspective and see it as a 1970s buyer would have seen it. It was the first high horology sports watch. Now, painting, cinema, and music offer cultural parallels where a key inflection point creates difficulty distinguishing between what came before and what came after that inflection. So the jumbo was built in the craft tradition of 1950s and 1960s ultra-thin AP dress watches. Very fine watches. This was clearly not one of them, but it was built in the same finishing and standards tradition by the same people who made those older watches. Now, that said, the design broke with the previous practice, as did the use of stainless steel. So in many ways, it was the last of the old and the first of the new. Let's look at music. Now, was Jackie Brenston's 1951 Rocket 88 R&B, or was it the first rock and roll song? Well, it was a rock and roll song, and it was R&B, written by an R&B saxophonist who was creating a new genre. So it's both the last of the old and the first of the new. Now, let's move to the heavy metal threshold. This is where I perhaps am a little bit more in my wheelhouse. I like the oldies, but metal is my thing. Now, I've had viewers dispute my claim that the Blue Oyster Cult was an early heavy metal band. Secret Treaties, 1974. That was metal by the standards of the day. One of the songs off that album was later covered by Metallica, and the cult described itself as heavy metal back before that was a thing. Now, that's 1974. Is it 74 metal? Absolutely. But by 1984, the bar had raised, and the standards were different. Ride the Lightning sounds nothing like Secret Treaties, but again, Metallica will point to the BOC as one of their influences. That inflection point of 1974 for metal, of 1972 for the Royal Oak ultra-thin jumbo, it's the same idea. And that's why we still call the jumbo a sports watch today. It was a pioneer. And I would say that's how it is with the jumbo. The 15400 is the Rolling Stones to the 5402's Jackie Brenston, and the Offshore is just Metallica. Now, viewer wrist shots, one of my favorite features on the show. Ben C. and his Baltic Bicompax Panda limited edition rocking Honda. Red Bull Racing and F1 will have Honda power next year. I'm excited. Kenneth M. brings heavy metal of his own with a gorgeous Calibre 540 JLC Atmos atmospheric clock. If you haven't seen one of these, it takes only 1 degree of temperature change every 2 days to run the clock perpetually. Woody T. and his friend shot for a Mr. Porter style aesthetic with this remarkably well composed and color balanced wrist shot of his Reverso. We're dropping all kinds of gear in the studio tonight, rest assured none of his watches. And Jonathan C. of Ann Arbor walked in to pay overlist for a Rolex BLNR and walked out with this stunning piece, a Breitling Transocean chronograph for a fraction of the price of the black and blue GMT. Send your wrist shots to mondaymailbag@thewatchbox.com to see your pieces on these pixels. Okay, Rodrigo V asks, Tim, I've heard the term everyday watch used, and some watches are said to be too extreme to wear every day. What does this mean? Can you define it? Well, this is an excellent topic because it actually cuts to a discussion I was having with our Friday host, Jason. And Jason Main and I were talking about cars, and we were talking about everyday cars, and we were talking about cars that could cut it every day but weren't really suitable for every day. The Audi R8 was the prime example. Yes, in terms of reliability and everyday usability and comfort, you could totally drive it anywhere you could drive an S4, but it might be uncomfortable to drive that car as much as I love the brand and the color. It's just too much attention. It's too much. Unless you live in Dubai. ... So, in general, the much-mooted casual watch, party watch, weekend watch, occasional watch is going to be too large, too gold, too bold, or just too outrageous. And yeah, that is too outrageous. That's almost too outrageous for any occasion. That said, it's something that would make you uncomfortable, I should say, in an office environment, so it's going to make you a bit at ease in a professional environment, either because you don't want to wear something better than the boss, or because as the boss you don't want to advertise how much more you're making than the rank and file. It could be something that fails to fit under cuffs or sleeves, so it doesn't work well with the attire you're wearing, especially formal attire. It could be something that attracts unwanted attention among the general public. I've had friends and viewers who've actually sent me wrist shots from places as far-flung as Rio de Janeiro and Paris, saying they just aren't comfortable wearing more than a standard Omega Seamaster 300. It might be something that declares your financial means too overtly, and that makes you uncomfortable. Or it might focus on functions that are ill-suited to your job. If you're a lawyer, you might want to have a chronograph so you can clock billable hours and actually meter that. Maybe a GMT doesn't work in that occasion, so it's not a crazy watch at all. It's just the wrong one for your circumstances. That said, there is another category aside from the crazy watch, and that is the vintage or the delicate watch. Oftentimes, this is where your Piaget Altiplano 910 Ultimate, your vintage Rolex Submariner, your ultra-thin JLC skeleton just isn't suitable because of delicacy, by means of thin construction or simply the ravages of age. There are some watches that are occasional watches because they are simply brittle, and we know those watches when we see them. Okay, primary features tonight. Let's see what's going on right here. I can see we got friends in the chat box asking me, what do you think of the Tudor Pelagos in regards to versatility? It's my favorite Tudor dive watch. Between the Black Bay and the Pelagos, make mine the LHD. I think it's the most uniquely weird and endearing, and if you've examined a Pelagos alongside a Black Bay, you realize how much more capability you're getting in the Pelagos, and no place is that more evident than in the Clasp, which is one of the best in the industry. Okay, and I can see right here, Brick Lane is saying BMW B6 Alpina Edition. I am a huge Alpina fan. Between M Motorsport and Alpina, I skew Alpina almost every time. It is truly the BMW answer to AMG. Okay, Time for Fun is saying wear an Invicta. That's kind of the party watch that you can wear all the time because rather than being ostentatious and pretentious, it's just weird. People laugh with you or at you, but they certainly aren't going to accuse you of showboating your wealth. So let's jump straight back to the primary feature of this evening's show, the best watches that nobody buys. These are not dogs. They sell that way, but they have considerable merit. Tonight, I'm compelled to pull the veil on some of the world's worthy watches that have fallen by the wayside of the industry's recent resurgence. So these are the watches I would gladly buy myself for myself, and all of them are available to you now, new, without a wait, and often new with a discount. These are watches from Rolex, Lange, and Oris. These are the best watches that nobody buys, part 2. There will be other installments. We need to talk about Chopard. We need to talk about Parmigiani. We're going to get to that in part 3. Tonight, let's start with A Lange Sohne, the Lange 1 and the Zeitwerk. Okay, Lange 1, the pillar of the brand, and the Zeitwerk, the most audacious, paradigm-redefining watch by this rather conservative Saxon manufacturer. One of the 3 pillars of the brand, and we'll get to what those 3 are. But I would say, realistically, why are these modern masterpieces on the list? I mean, you're questioning, given how good they are objectively. The Lange One and the Zeitwerk are universally regarded as some of the best enthusiasts' pieces. Almost everyone rates them, even if they're not fans of Lange, and they're arguably two of the three core Langes alongside the third pillar, the datograph. So, this is why they're on the list, because they can be bought with discounts new out of Lange boutiques right now. I've heard 30% off out of Lange factory stores. That's a problem for the brand, a great opportunity for the buyer. But when you have to take 3/10 off a new watch that is a wonderful piece that everyone agrees is a fantastic watch and among the best in the industry, something's wrong. That's why these are on the list of the best watches nobody buys, because pre-owned they sell at a huge discount to new, and even new they sell at a huge discount to list. So make that a factor to your advantage when shopping for these watches. I endorse them, just don't pay list. So here's the thing. Lange marketing has been as weak as the products are strong, and these precious metal dress watches unfortunately aren't steel, AP, Patek, Rolex, and even Omega. Those have really been the core of the watch industry resurgence. We're not seeing a whole lot of precious metal dress watches moving like those things are. If it's steel, it's real hot right now. If it's not, it's pretty much got to be FP Journe or a boutique brand to get away with being dress and precious metal. So, moreover, no list of the most important watches of the last 30 years would be complete without a Lange One, and I'm not sure that the interminably waitlisted Patek Aquanaut and steel ceramic Daytona even rate as a footnote among discussions of the most important watches of the last 3 decades. Yet those are hot and the Langes are not. I would say that the case of the Zeitwerk is even more shocking. After all, when FP Journe designed something like this, people fall over themselves to get on the wait list and otherwise debase themselves with desperate entreaties for an allotment sniveled in hastily acquired French from Monsieur Jaune. But here's the thing. The transformative 2009 Zeitwerk recast expectations for Lange as a brand as well as acting as a defining product launch that was just as important as the 1994 Lange One or the 1999 Datograph. That's how important the Zeitwerk was. And even more impressive, the Big Z beat the crap out of Audemars Piguet, Grubel Forsey, the Harry Winston Opus 9, the Ulysse Nardin Moonstruck, MB&F, and Urwerk to take the Aiguille d'Or in 2009, the grand prize at the Oscars of watchmaking. So it's not just we, the enthusiasts, who love this thing. The industry has nodded and said, yes, this was an epic watch that defined its age. In 2009, the world was about the Zeitwerk. And in 2018, just under a decade later, you can get this watch for $20,000. Less than its new MSRP if you buy it pre-owned. That's a screaming deal. Make that a factor to your advantage when shopping. Everything I just said about the Lange One is true with the Zeitwerk, but again, for the market at the moment, it's too complicated, it's too dressy, it's too precious metal, and too Lange to command stupid premiums or wait lists. And the late Walter Lange, and this is kind of a postscript, was a reserved and austere character, a good business mind and a sincere man, but he was unable or unwilling to cultivate the same cult of personality that swirls around FP Journe, Richard Mille, and the like in the small market, small volume brand space. Even though Lange only makes about 5,000 watches a year, and very few of those are the Zeitwerk, for some reason, it just doesn't have the wind in its sails. Again, make that a factor to your advantage. Okay, jumping. You need to take command of your own destiny and checkbook. These are epic watches, guys. Decide accordingly. Now, Rolex, that's right, there is a Rolex steel sports watch you can buy now right out of the dealer's case, and you will have your pick of many dials and sizes. The Rolex Oyster Perpetual, the Rolex, the foundation of every sports watch and every Rolex that came after, in 36mm and 39mm. Now, internet convention holds that all canonical core collection stainless steel Rolex Oyster sports watch models are back-ordered and marked up to next Tuesday on secondary markets. I've heard the preposterous term Rolex shortage bandied by people trying to make noise and draw attention to themselves on social media, especially on YouTube. Great news, guys. 36mm Oyster Perpetuals and 39mm Oysters are in the cases, stocked, brand new, with 5-year warranties, waiting to be carried away for nothing more than the Rolex anointed list price. Right now, everywhere Rolex timepieces are sold. So, Nothing more than a walk-in, a handshake, and between $5,400 for a 36 mil and $5,700 to get the 39 millimeter, you're talking about a screaming deal on a watch that has all the advantages of buying a new Rolex with none of the disadvantages of waiting 2 years for a sub, a GMT, or a Daytona. Consider this. You get half a decade warranty. You get many loomed dial options. You get a 100-meter water resistance. You get the COSC Plus superlative chronometer timing standard. Rolex finally substantiates that term as -2 + 2 or better per 24 hours. You get the immense history dating back to the original 1933 Rolex Bubbleback, the combination of the perpetual winding system and the Oyster water-resistant case. Today, the descendant of that watch is this watch, and you can buy it immediately. Also, there are fun dial colors too. These are lively watches if you want them to be. Renewed in 2015 and upgraded with new white and black dial options for 2018, the Rolex Oyster Perpetual family offers some of the most vivid dial colors this side of a day-date Stella from the 70s. So, you can go conventional with black and white, new for 2018, or live it up with Sunburst Red Grape, one of my personal favorites. You can get dark rhodium with azure accents. This one's slick. This is a baby Yachtmaster. You can go with Sunburst Blue and Green. I happen to love that combination of metallic blue with signal green. Personal favorite of mine. You could also go with one that I'm partial to, which is brand new. I am a fan of the white wine, and you can see that I wear it well. That's a gorgeous option if you want something colorful but not outrageous. And there's this 34 millimeter Hero, a counterpart to the Submariner Hulk for petite wrists. Perhaps we can call this one the She-Hulk. Marvel, you're hunting for female superheroes. Boom, get together with Rolex, break up JLC's monopoly on the Marvel movies. I like that thought. Okay, guys, Oris in-house calibers. These are the best watches that nobody buys. So, we love the Aquis, we love the big crowns. And since 2015, we love the Divers 65 family. These are great value. They look great. They take us back. They're nostalgic, even for those of us who weren't born within 20 years of the manufacture of that watch. But here's the thing. Since its 2014 launch, Oris's in-house 10-day manual movement hasn't received enough love from those of us who ordinarily sing the praises of the Oris brand as a whole. Consider the stunning Calibre 111. There's a lot to love here. And its evolution in 2015, when it spawned a date, and you can see why we're talking about this thing. Now, check out the double involute skeletonized, can we go full screen with this one, guys? The double involute skeletonized seashell style interlocking wheels that turn the non-linear power reserve. You can see them all the way off to the left of the screen. You can see those two wheels fully skeletonized with that involute curve. That's how you get a non-linear power reserve, so the power reserve moves faster as the watch discharges, so you know as it gets closer to zero, you see it moving at a more pronounced rate. That's what they mean by a non-linear power reserve. They don't mean it's circular. They mean it has a variable rate. Also, look at the curves of that circular satin enormous ratchet wheel at the top. Absolutely gorgeous. The vertical satin grain of the brushed finish across the bridges. I admire the fact that they didn't take a cheap and easy route with some sort of stamped Côte de Genève. They were original. And at the bottom, you can see they used a clever in-house rack and pinion style, highly stable screw-fixed fine adjustment mechanism in tandem with Edelkrone to create an incredibly precise mechanism. This is a great movement. Let's put a face on it, though. Let's put the machine to work and see what we get for our money. So you could pay $12,700 for an IWC Portuguese Auto 5710 in steel, 42.3 millimeters, 7-day power reserve. Again, $12,700 for this one. Or you could get the Oris Artelier Calibre 111. This one, $5,800, 43 millimeters in stainless steel. You get a full deployant clasp on alligator leather, not calf, not rubber. All of that, with a 10-day power reserve, the movement we just saw, for $5,800 new. Want something to make time fly? Well, how about an IWC Big Pilot Watch, edition Le Petit Prince? 5010-02, $12,900. $12,900. Now, that's 46 millimeters in steel. Or you could save enough money to buy a couple of flight lessons and go with the Oris ProPilot Calibre 111. That costs $5,600, and it's 44 millimeters in steel with full clasp and that gorgeous blue metallic dial to match blows with the IWC. Or you could save enough money to work your way up to a private pilot's license with your flight instruction and purchase the blue and steel ProPilot pre-owned. It goes pre-owned for between $3,000 and $3,500. Yes, now we're talking serious cash left in the coffers to actually take flight training lessons and get yourself a license while wearing your luxury watch. The best luxury pilot's watch that nobody buys. Jumping into the viewer wrist shots. These are some of my favorite features of the week. I see what you guys are wearing. And what you're wearing include watches bought with us. Dan V bought this PAM 1537 from Govberg. Dan, thank you for trusting our company. Gorgeous piece, you wear it well. And by the way, he fitted an awesome olive drab aftermarket custom strap that's part of the fun of owning a Panerai accessory straps. Win H of Texas regales us with an Apple Watch concept all of us can embrace with his Chronoswiss chronometer chronograph. Atai F goes diving in the eBay and catches a 2001 Rolex no-date sub, the mighty millennial reference 14060. You wear it well, man. I love the ink, and that watch is in awesome condition. You've even got the original factory bevel still on that one. Finally, Richard R brings down the curtain and brings down the house with two in black and blue. That is an excellent shot, Richard. That takes the title of best wrist shot of the evening. Guys, send your wrist shots to mondaymailbag@thewatchbox.com, and we'll be bringing back Time to Run next week. So send me the worst watch listings you can find on Chrono24, Etsy, Craigslist, eBay. Send them to me. Send me a link. Send me screenshots, and we'll throw them up to name and shame and improve the breed. Finally, comment in the description or in the comment threads below underneath the description. I always respond to comments after the show, and I love to read what you guys are saying. Everyone in the chat box, you made my night. You helped us hit a phenomenal live peak. I always read your comments after the show, even if I don't always interact with you during the show. Thank you so much, and remember, if you're watching this recorded, click the link below in the description to win the Seiko Astron GPS Solar, the giveaway watch for October 2018. I'm Tim, they're the crew. I give my thanks to you. Time out, Tim out, and thanks for logging on.